and I'll get it shared also.
Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions Wednesday afternoon. The boy wonder is back. Liran Hirschkorn is in the house. Hey Liran, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you? Thanks for having me back on. It's been some time, but
Yeah, I think you were on with Izza, weren't you? You was on with Izza about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah, no, it's been a while. I wanted to get you back for a while, you know, with timings and stuff. So yeah, great to have you back. Do you want to give the audience just a little bit of background on yourself, please?
Sure. Well, yeah, I was born back in 1981. No, I started.
We'll do your in-depth part 2 soon. Yeah.
Yeah. I started selling on Amazon in 2014, and fast forward to today, still selling on Amazon, and also run a marketing agency called Incrementum Digital. We're helping brands basically scale on Amazon in a number of ways. Advertising and as well as full brand management. We're actually rolling out creative services now, so doing a lot there, and super exciting things are happening in the space. I'm sure you've kind of been talking about it too. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool. So today we're gonna, I mean, it sounds premature, but it clearly isn't. Have you got a landed date for Prime Day? Because I put in the show notes 3 feasible dates that start on a Monday in July. There's 3 of them. Let me just pull up. We've got the dates here. Let's see if I can quickly find it. What have you got down for?
I can share what I'm trying to share this. I can share what I've heard, and actually I also did a poll on LinkedIn, and I think the majority, like 42%, which was the highest number, agreed with this thing. So I think there's been some document that was, I guess, leaked internal of Amazon
2 weeks ago.
And so the date on that document, from what again I'm told, is the June 22nd to the 24th, which is early, which is unusual. Amazon is historically done in July. Obviously, last year was in October. I also heard somebody else who told me it's possible there will be 2 Prime Days this year. I think, I think that, I mean, it sounds off to me because I think Amazon wants to make it this one huge event. However, by doing a Prime Day in October, Amazon is kicking off the holiday season, even earlier, right? Like historically, the holiday shopping season starts with like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Now you're bringing it a month back. And could be also with the supply chain kind of issues and inventory. They want maybe again people to buy early, kind of like last year. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens. But what I'm hearing is June 22nd to 24th, and that it'll be a little longer this year. It'll be kind of like a 2.5 day type of event. I think until now it's been kind of like a 1.5 day, type of event.
Yeah, I think with that document, the leaked dates, which they said would have been the 14th and the 15th, the 21st, the 22nd, or Monday 28th and Tuesday 29th. But yeah, like you said, it hasn't been confirmed. That's why I want to double check in case something came out today, if it's been confirmed. All right, so getting prepared for Prime Day. Fire away, mate.
And by the way, we can talk about some dates, but I really think they're not going to release it until, if it's happening in June, they won't release it until sometimes towards like, beginning of June or end of May. Like they don't give you necessarily a lot of time, so it's probably a little bit early for them to release it. But they've already internally obviously decided. We can also, there's obviously some important dates on one already passed. Was this past Friday? Was April 16th was the last day to submit deals for Prime Day. And in terms of preparing, inventory obviously is something you need to have in place officially. So on the vendor side, May 20th is the last day to get sort of POs in and kind of inventory in for Prime Day. And for the seller side, May 31st is the recommended like final date that you should have like
lightning deals.
Inventory at FBA basically May 31st for it, which is why I happen to think it might be also in June because they're putting a May 31st deadline on it. So as far as preparing for Prime Day, there's a number of things. So one idea, so I did a room on Clubhouse with a guy who is on the vendor side, and what he said they do is, Amazon gives you the ability now to change up your storefront. And what they do is, they create this like secondary storefronts, and I think they do this, for holiday and different times of the year. And you can set the dates that storefront's going to be live essentially, and then kind of like switches back. So what they do is like the week before Prime Day, they actually change their entire sort of homepage on their storefront to big banner on top says like Prime Day deals coming soon, and then they show the products there that are going to be on deals. So they're starting to kind of gather interest. You can make the argument that they're losing some sales, but I think there's a lot of people that are kind of browsing, right, like the week before Prime Day anyway, and kind of waiting for deals. So that's one thing you could do, is kind of change up your storefront, focus on put on your homepage your products. So they first do a coming soon, and then I think they kind of, maybe make a change like right before Prime Day to maybe removing that and changing the banner to like a Prime Day deals banner. And I think that's a really good idea if you have the bandwidth to go and kind of change up your storefront. They're also heavily kind of like investing into deals. So I think it depends on what your strategy is. And it depends on your strategy, and really depends on what category you're in, right? So for example, I would say if you're in a consumable type of product, you have much more benefit, for example, from lowering your price and doing a deal, because you're trying to get that, you're trying to like buy that buyer, right? Prime Day is an amazing opportunity to have your food product, skincare product, supplement, in front of more people that may like the product and buy it again, right? And you're getting them into a deal. Or if you have more products in your catalog in the first place, right? You're driving traffic to your storefront. There's some products that have deals, some that don't. There's complementary products, right? You're just getting a brand, more brand awareness. If you're using things like, if you're thinking about driving additional reviews and having inserts and capturing information, obviously, if you run deals, you're going to capture a lot more reviews and customer data. So I think you need to think about what is my goal, because obviously these deals also come with bigger discounts, right? So you need to think, do I have the inventory in place to
support it?
Yeah, to support it, especially this year. Like, just so many people are experiencing supply chain issues. I personally have not, but some people are experiencing supply chain issues, and higher pricing and I have experienced higher pricing for shipping, right? So like all these things that are kind of happening. So if you do have the inventory in place, I think it's a great opportunity to get in front of more customers and have the halo effect of the benefits in terms of reviews and new customers to your brand that you're going to get. I think especially if you're driving traffic to your storefront, people can now follow your storefront, and coming soon will be the ability to have something called a campaign manager, where you will have some ability to market or communicate to those people that follow your brand. And today, the only way people can follow your brand is through storefront or through Amazon posts. So if you're thinking about the sort of overall bigger picture strategy, there's a lot of benefits to do deals. If you're just thinking from an immediate profit and you have one product today, maybe it doesn't make as much sense. Either way, you're going to benefit from Prime Day. You should also be thinking about your advertising strategy, both before Prime Day and during Prime Day. So turning things on, like if you're not doing, for example, retargeting within sponsored display, well, you should kind of turn that on, because at least sometime before, a month before. So like even now, Prime Day, because you really need a certain amount of, first of all, it only really works well if you have listings that have sessions, that have visitors, a couple thousand sessions, a month or more, because you need enough of a pool to be able to retarget and have retargeting kind of work in the first place. So you should actually get that started. Maybe 30 days before Prime Day would be good, because that's typically the look back window within sponsored display, if you're not running it now. And those customers will kind of get retargeted, right? And they may see your deals during Prime Day. If you're a bigger brand, you might be doing more top of funnel type of advertising. You can now do some of that within sponsored display. We can kind of talk about that. There's a new audiences that are in the sponsored display section. So you can start to think about who is my, look through, and you can, the best way to do it is actually search, because the going through some of the subcategories you may not find, but search within your lifestyle of your customer, your age, your demographics, your niche, and you can start to target sort of like audience targeting. And again, those, it's a combination of a top of funnel and bottom funnel approach. You're targeting at the top of the funnel, like this audience or somebody that just had a baby, right? You can target like life events there too if you have baby products. And then people, right now you have a lot of benefit on the seller side because it's a cost per click model. I think eventually, I spoke to Amazon yesterday, and they indicated that eventually you'll have the option to have a cost per click or a CPM, cost per impression model. But right now it's cost per click. So you're sort of getting brand awareness and you're not paying for the impressions. On the DSP side, you're paying
for the impressions.
Yeah, whether or not somebody's clicking or not. So I think it could be beneficial. And then the person clicks, they come to your listing, they're going to get retargeted, right? So it's kind of like a sort of what's called a full funnel approach. And you can play around with those audiences. We could talk a little bit also about those audiences, but in terms of
before we get into like the audience, I want to stay on PPC a little bit. Because I'm going to give a bit of an overview that what we're doing Data Bill on the PPC side. I'd like to get your version because everyone has different strategies. So let me know when you're ready. I can jump in. If you want to run through what are you seeing at the moment, like your traditional in terms of setting budgets, bids and stuff like that. What's the kind of thing that generalizing?
For Prime Day, historically, what we've done is we've increased basically, we've increased budgets by like 100%, and and basically for the days of Prime Day, and then bring it back down. So that's kind of what we've done. We generally have not encouraged people unless they really want to, but we generally have not encouraged people to increase their bids. For us, because we've seen the same bids work to get traffic, and there's so much traffic and
people burn through their budgets anyway, and people don't always set enough budget. They grossly underestimate, and then you can step in and win. So the early hours are the more traffic on the site in terms of people coming in, not necessarily buying straight away. They're coming back buying lunchtime, but through campaigns, it gives you an opportunity to be visible. So
absolutely. And in October, our biggest client, they sold $2 million over $1 million or $2 million over the 2 days of Prime Day, and by day two they were already pulling back on budgets. Like they'd sold so much that like they forget about raising bids. They started to pull back on the budget because they'd already sold so much inventory at that point. So I personally don't really think you need to increase bids. If you want to, again, if you just launched a product and you want to be very aggressive, right, and you have a different sort of strategy, then like it could make sense. But you need to have the inventory in place, and I don't think you'll go out of budget if you don't. I think you could still easily go out of budget if you don't raise the bids.
Cool. I've got some notes here from meeting with Velis earlier on. So with regards to Prime Day, ad competition is always brutal. The cost of advertising on Amazon is always a gradual upward climb, as we know, leading up here, but there's a sizable step up in cost per clicks post Prime Day compared to before from the data that we have. In the past, conversion rate was lower in a couple of weeks leading up to Prime Day and in the days and weeks to following Prime Day. For most sellers, it's better to increase the campaign budget. We look to do 2 to 4x rather than increasing their bids around Prime Day. But if they have plenty of stock and want to sell aggressively, then plan to raise your bids by at least 30%. Sponsored products and sponsored brand videos can generate most of the sales, but sponsored brand videos are often aren't worth the cost per click anymore. Since the ad competition is now much higher, you probably get a smaller fraction of the ad space than usual. To make up for that, you can try and capture more long tail searches by adding relevant keywords from the brand analytics report or doing more broad match based advertising.
I also think that you can expect that you're, like you said, you're going to get it's a little bit of a dilemma what to do before Prime Day, because you're going to get people browsing, right? So on the one hand, you're going to get people browsing, your conversions are not going to be as good, your ACoS is not going to be as good on the few days the weekend, sort of from the weekend before, sort of like leading into Prime Day, your ACOS is not going to be as good. The thing is that I generally wouldn't recommend you sort of pull back on budgets, because people browsing, they may be looking at your product and they may come back to see if you have a deal on Prime Day. So it's one of those things where you can pull back and your conversions are not going to be as good, but I believe that you want to be visible on the days if you have deals on products too, right? So you should think about it. If you're not running deals, maybe it makes sense to pull back a little bit, because the conversions before are kind of poor. People are waiting, for deals, and they're doing more browsing around than what's typically kind of done on Amazon.
But I think it's pretty agreeable across the board. Most agencies are the same, is that no one raises the bids. They raise budgets, but not the individual bids. Generally, like, that's the vibe I get from when I speak to others.
Yeah, I mean, we generally don't encourage it. We've seen, I've seen companies promote doing both, but again, I don't necessarily.
Well, Amazon will. They'll email you and say, look, brand advertising and spend a shit ton of money of yours. Yeah.
This brand that did this 7 figures on Prime Day, in the middle of like the second day or something, or the first day, I get an email from, because this brand, has a advertising rep, and we sometimes communicate with them. They're like, hey, I just searched this keyword. You're not visible. Like, raise the bids, raise the budgets, and like, generally the goals are not aligned, the Amazon, especially like Amazon, and it really like also depends on which Amazon ad reps you have. And I will not say across the board they're not helpful, because in many situations
they are, but they're helpful. Like, Amazon looks after customers. Amazon looks after their team by incentivizing them. Yet the team are incentivized to make money themselves as well. They're there to help, but they are incentivized to make money. Right. There is nowhere in the chain that is fully incentivized and is on the seller side.
And by the way, I'll tell you what's 100%, in my opinion, not 100%, but what will come. So Amazon reps do not get incentivized if you spend more on sponsored product ads. Okay. Right. Okay. Amazon already knows, like, everybody's already doing sponsored product ads, but not everyone doing sponsored brand and sponsored brand video and more top of funnel, type of advertising. So sponsored brand and sponsored display and DSP is kind of what they get incentivized on if you grow your spend there. So the conversations they have with you, you need to understand, like, obviously they won't share with you their thing, but I've been told internally, kind of like how they get compensated. It's on growth in the new ad types that Amazon introduces, and to get adoption of those ad types. So what I see coming, okay, audience has just rolled out. Well, the emails that are going to come are going to be on, hey, are you using sponsored display audiences? And it'll be a push. Now, in general, on those sponsored display audiences, I think that if you are expecting as good an ACOS as you are getting from sponsored products or sponsored brands, you're not going to see it, because this is like targeting people that are not specifically searching for your product. Amazon calls this essentially, like, they have different names for this, but one is like, in market or in aisle, right? So like, think about, like, you shop in the aisle that has condiments and you've bought ketchup. Well, now I'm going to show you mustard and, pickles and whatever other condiments,
contextual,
mayonnaise and other types of condiment products. And Amazon thinks that if you buy this, you're in that aisle. If you think about the supermarket aisle, you're in that aisle. Then Amazon also has this other thing they call adjacent to aisle. If you're in the aisle of pet supplements, well, the aisle next to it is dog treats, and so you're targeting people, or targeting someone that just had a baby. Well, that person may not be looking for that fingerprint keepsake thing, right? It may apply to them, but they're not necessarily searching for it. So I would have the expectation that you're going to have a high return on ad spend on this, but there is an element of building your brand and awareness. You can call this more a consideration advertising, right? Next time you have a baby, next time you are thinking about, a cute gift or to buy for somebody else that might have a baby, or whatever, then consider us as the product to buy, kind of a thing. So I wouldn't expect a high return on ad spend. What I do like about it on the Seller Central side is that it is a cost per click model today. And so there is a more, I think, a greater buying intent if somebody actually clicks on it, as opposed to just scrolling past, sort of an ad. So it'll be interesting to see what the results are. We're gonna start testing it. What are your thoughts on this audience, sort of targeting?
I've not had my hands on it really, because I'm not really under the hood at the moment at Databill. Ellis and the team are taking, so it'd be unfair of me to pass like not an expert, but a solid comment on it. Yeah.
Okay.
What else has been going on with you?
I mean, some of the other things, I guess, that we could talk about too is there's also recently some new reporting within BBC. We could talk about that a little bit. I think it's worthwhile to have a look, and I will also share some of the pitfalls of looking at these reports and trying to understand what's going on behind them. So I'll give you an example. So first, the reports that have recently come out are both sponsored brand and sponsored product search term impression report. These are really valuable because they show you the amount of impressions you're getting on a particular keyword, your click-through rate, and also where you rank among the competition. It kind of gives you a sense of what is the kind of size of the market for that keyword. I wouldn't translate it into search volume because impressions, the math isn't the same on the total available impressions, and because multiple advertisers are seen under one impression, right? So the math doesn't necessarily work, but you can generally see what keywords have more search volume, etc. But so you can see, I looked at it on one of my products and I saw like a very relevant keyword. We were like number 27, right, among the competition for impressions. So, and then you can see what the ACoS is and what the results are there. So you can go and see where you have the ability to make additional sort of pushes on keywords, or where there's keywords where you're just like totally not visible. We saw a report recently on a brand, and we looked at their branded, they have significant amount of branded searches. And what the interesting part was that they had a ton of impressions on their branded searches, but this is a sponsored brand report, but the click-through rate was like 0.03. So this is a good question to ask yourself. How is it possible that somebody's searching for your brand name? Imagine somebody searching for Nike and seeing, 50,000 impressions, and the click-through rate is like very, very low. What's going on there, right? So we went to Amazon, we did the search. And what we found was that their top competitor, and by the way, they were number 2 ranked for their branded, right? That means there's a competitor that is getting more impressions for their brand.
The actual brand,
than the actual brand. Well, what's going on? So we did a search on Amazon. So you need to understand like what's going on behind the numbers, right? And this report will help you like see things and then question things and then go investigate what's going on. So we went to Amazon, we did a search, and we saw the page look like this. Sponsor brand N on top is the competitor, and we scroll all the way down the page, and brands related to this search on the bottom are additional 3 sponsored brands, and one of them is there, right? But I guess the answer is nobody's really clicking on those, but it still counts as an impression. It gets sort of shown on the page. But so what we essentially realize we need to do is really bid higher on their branding, because the competitor is going super hard on their against their brand name. So you can uncover a lot in areas where you can really like push further, and again, how competitive you are. If you have a bunch of keywords in your niche and you're like number 1 or 2 in terms of like impression rank, it's pretty good. You should kind of look at your most important keywords, and you need to look at ACoS and say, like, it's not just the easy answer that like, why am I number 5? Well, if you have a 40% ACoS at number 5, it's because if you bid higher and get more impressions, your ACoS is maybe higher. You have to kind of test it. But I think everybody should be downloading these reports and looking at them, and I think you will uncover opportunities if you have not looked at them.
Cool. And so how is the agency? It's been growing now, yeah? You've been running it, 18 months now? Has it been going?
Yeah, I mean, I would say more full force since like January of last year. Yeah, so about 18 months. And yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of growth. I think that's a combination. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, including obviously e-commerce is just getting hot. Like the entire space is getting hot. So if you can actually help people and you do good work, then yes, like you have a good opportunity to, it's a good time to be in this space. So we're working now on in a few areas. So we're working on ad management. We're doing more and more on the DSP side. We started doing full brand management sometime in the fall of last.
You mean full account management, not just PPC, but account management overall? Yeah.
Yeah, full account management. So which basically is kind of like what we see as like a pod. So we have a pod of people that is tackling all areas of that brand. I would say outside of logistics, although at some point it's possible we'll maybe bring that in and help people with the logistics side too, where we're kind of we're not communicating with your supplier.
Did you know, because like when we started Databril, I was looking into account management as well, but the human capital you need versus running PPC only. So did you have any growing pains there? Did you move some of the team over? Like, how do you break that out and still, because it's a lot of work, isn't it? People don't realize the amount of work goes into account manager, especially the communication with the client. If they're literally saying, can you do this? Can you do this? And it's all day long. How do you manage that and compare that to your PPC agency?
Correct. It is much more intense. And, because we had an existing PPC agency, we really took sort of the profits from the PPC side to build the brand management side. I don't think we could have started out doing both, because it is really an investment that you have to make in people and systems and processes before you necessarily see the revenue that comes as a result, because you need to have the team in place to be able to manage a brand.
Yes. It's a bit of chicken and egg goes on there when you're building that out. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So we were able to kind of use the profits from, managing 200 stores on PPC to hire and invest and start to build that team. So I'll tell you kind of like what the structure is, but yeah, it's very, and even like, to be frank, like the first few customers we took, we're not really making money on those customers, right? We kind of took it as like, we want to get started.
Prove what you can do, show your work, get some case studies.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's still, building. And yes, there's many moving pieces. So for us, every one of our clients, whether you're an ad client or a brand management client, you're in a Slack channel with us. So there is like a lot of real-time communication. And I get called for emergencies, on the weekends, like, hey, I have a lightning deal. Like, we need to raise budgets, or this product is just taken down, or, so we're dealing with a lot of that stuff. So it's definitely intense. The way we kind of have it is we kind of see it as like sort of pods, right? So we will have an ad manager from the ad management team that is also working on, let's say, a brand management client. We have a brand manager. We have like a creative team. So we have like graphic designers and creative team. We just brought on a creative director and a head of creative to be able to really do more branding. The head of creative is also a photographer, so we'll be doing like photography in-house. So we have a graphic design team, and then we have a Seller Central customer service person, and then we have a Seller Central like ops person. Those two roles are, in the Philippines, including graphic designers. The ad manager, brand manager are not. All our brand managers are like US or Canada. So because communication is just very, very important there. And then we have an ad manager that's either US or Europe based, US, Canada, or Europe based. And it's kind of like a team, kind of like a pod type of approach. Each one of these, each like seller support, like operations person. So that person is basically opening cases. They're doing flat files. They're dealing with like the variations, things that kind of need to be done within the account. Then we have a customer service person, graphic design team, brand manager, ad manager. Each pod like this can like operate about 3 to 4 brands. It's kind of like the model. So, essentially you're kind of getting, the benefit of hiring, an agency is that if you hire these people yourself, right, your cost would be significantly higher. You're getting the fractional, you're getting sort of, you're buying, it's like hiring a fractional CFO, right? Like you're getting for your team, right? So you're not paying the full-time salary, but you get access to this like team and expertise. And yeah, and you know, we're also doing things that, you know, like my vision for this was to position this as, you know, when I looked at the other agencies that are out there and interviewing people, what I saw was that the big agencies have people that can communicate really well, but that don't necessarily, like, the big agencies are not running like launches and they call it squad in IT.
Squad in IT, yeah.
Yeah. So the big agencies are not running launches for people, search, find, buy, add to carts. They're not implementing insert funnels to drive more reviews. And my vision was it to take sort of like all the knowledge that I had, as well as the people that I'm bringing on. Like some of them, you know, guy we just brought on sold 800,000 last year. His main product with 1,000 reviews got taken down. He had to kind of start from scratch. He needed to work basically. And he's still working on that one product, which is not a lot of his time, but like we're bringing people that have Amazon expertise. So the idea is to be able to bring in the small private label seller expertise and be able to roll that out to brands that don't really have the expertise on Amazon. A lot of the people that are watching this likely don't need that necessarily, because like if you're on this, you're probably an expert the same way you and I consider ourselves to be experts. So, you know, but we're doing it for brands that are in retail and D2C, or we're doing it for some sellers that were clients on the PPC side, and now they want to launch like another 20 products and focus on product development. Or they're you know, we have a pet client that is focusing now on Chewy and trying to get into retail, and he wants to take his eye off the ball a little bit on Amazon and kind of hand it over. So it's kind of like the setup.
And last week, the Big 4-0?
Last week, the Big 4-0, yes.
You're catching up with me. I've got nearly 6 years on you. Yeah.
6?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, 46 in November, yeah.
Wow, okay, well, don't look it, so it's a good
Thank you.
Thing. It was very nice. I've never really like made a big deal out of my birthday, you know, or like taking the day off, but you know, this was 40, so I took the day off and didn't really know. My wife planned out some stuff, so when I woke up, there were balloons in my entire house, a big 40. My wife scheduled a couples massage to come to the house, so it was really nice. Went out for lunch, then dinner with the family. Like it was just a nice, relaxing day. So grateful to be able to do that.
Cool. Is there anything you want to add before you go? What else are you up to at the moment? You out on the road yet? You going to Prosper or?
I would like to go to Prosper. Yeah. I'm kind of just waiting and see what happens, but I am fully vaccinated, so I'm sort of less concerned about.
You've been neutered. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm less concerned about, you know, about traveling. So I would like to go. I'd like to go to Prosper and be there. We were supposed to have a booth last year, but I don't think we're gonna do that. What about you?
There's some stuff in the works, so you may or may not see me at Prosper. Yeah, that's all I can say at the moment. But that I've got. I think it's a 7 or a 9 date tour, speaking tour in UK and Europe that I'm lining up from June to October. But I wanted to go over to Prosper, and let's just say there'll be announcements soon.
So wait, so you're going on a speaking tour?
Yeah, doing the usual. Like now that we're coming out of COVID, I've got Lithuania, I've got Poland, I've got London, Birmingham, Brighton, London. Who else? I've missed out something there. There's a couple of others in the UK, and then there's Ireland as well. And I wanted to do one over in the US. And well, I'm opening my mouth too much now, but there's let's just say that you may or may not see me at Prosper in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Whether it's a delegate or whatever, but the plan is, and I need a B1 visa to travel. So I'm just sorting that out at the moment. So there's a few things in the air, but the idea, I'm 90% sure I'll be at Prosper in some sort of capacity.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that'll be nice. I think I first met you at a show in Vegas, Retail Global.
Yes. Yeah, I was hosting a panel. That's where I met you and Andy, wasn't it? A few others. Me, you, Andy, Cynthia Stein, and someone else was on stage, and I was hosting and asking the questions, and you were on the panel, weren't you?
Yes. There's a couple other things that I'm interested to hear your thoughts on. I mean, number one, we could talk a little bit about sort of like building out teams. You know, I would say that this applies to your e-commerce business, but you know, I think really the way to, like, once you're at a certain point, the only way you're going to scale further is by building out like a really great team. I've seen that in my business, and sort of will be willing to let go and like delegate and hand over responsibilities. And I really think that if you like hiring amazing people is worth it. I can tell you that I look back in the last year, and there's been some times where we were kind of earlier in our growth, and I had some conversations with people about hiring, and I felt like it was just like too much money at the time, and I didn't hire them. And in every single case, looking back, I regret the decision of not bringing on that person, because the earlier you are in your business, the scarier it is to hire somebody, especially at like higher levels of pay, etc. But
can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Do you think that wages for PPC experts are getting out of control?
They look
skyrocketed. I spoke to someone a little while ago. 6 figures. I won't give you an exact amount. 6 figures.
We've had people quote us 6 figures too.
Yeah. And do you know what? They couldn't hold a torch to Ellis, like level skill set. I mean, it wasn't there, like the one in 6 figures. But after running some tests with them, it's like I even though I don't work under the hood all the time, I've been doing PPC for 13 years.
Yeah.
And everyone in the company is better than me at PPC, but I still consider myself reasonably good.
Yes.
The people I've interviewed asking for 6 figures, that I'd wipe the floor with them in a nice way, and it's just like, it's fucking crazy how it's getting out of control.
Look, oftentimes the math will not work in terms of like what you're charging and the ability to pay that. We do have some people in the company that are so like pretty like well paid. I mean, everybody's well paid based on their level, but yes, I've seen some of those quotes. And look, sometimes the people that are quoting that are just, look, there's somebody recently that quoted me a number, and the offer, I ended up giving them an offer that was maybe
you counted, did
you 60% of what they asked for, and they took. But we spoke a little bit about requirements before the interview. I interviewed them, I saw what level they were, and it didn't justify what they were asking. They still took it because it was opportunity for them to grow. Also, look, like I also understand when I talk to somebody in New York or California versus
the cost of living's much higher. Yeah.
So like, I'm like, look, unfortunately, where you are, look, where I live today, if in a remote world, you're at a disadvantage if you're looking for a job, because I think in some ways, because somebody can go hire somebody in Texas or Florida or somebody else where the cost of living is cheaper, and you can get the same talent. So it is a balance, but I will say that at the same time, it is worth investing in people that are rock stars. You have to evaluate it. There has to be a path.
I'm all in. Like if there's value there, I'm all in. It's just, when people like they lack the self-awareness to go, well, where did you pull that number from? It's out of your ass.
Right. No, I've had the same thing.
Yeah.
Look, I've interviewed someone for a PPC, and they're like, 150,000. Like, I'm like, look, I'd love to, but the math doesn't work for us. So yes, definitely, I've seen that. And look, at the same time, we are in a sense competing also today with all the aggregators, people that are funded with millions and millions of dollars, and like their margins are higher than our margins because they're actually selling the product, and we're servicing it, right? So to some extent, like that's part of the competition. I also think though that, for somebody looking for a job, the money should not be your only consideration, right? Because we've hired people from places that have left, at very similar pay or a little bit of a raise, but they were miserable in the company they worked for. So, one of the things I really focus on is like the culture of the team, people being happy, the opportunity to rise, the opportunity to grow. We have a culture Slack channel, culture team. We get people to, we're at about 45 people now on the team. So we have people who meet like just to hang and get to know each other and play some fun games in groups of 5. We're now doing like a quarterly game night, right? Like trying to engage people out, like make it a place that you feel like you want to actually contribute and participate in that you feel like you're valuable. I think that goes a long way, as much as money, as well as the opportunity to grow. The other thing I wanted to ask you, so I think it pays. The right people can make or break your business.
Yeah.
I
agree. I'm all in. But when it comes to that, I'm just saying is the lack of self-awareness.
Yeah,
I think it's a bubble in the space that it gets pushed up because now that, what we're competing with as well is the agencies that done like Google ads, because a lot of the bigger agencies is close shop when they're working with leading brands, because the leading brands don't want to go and find an Amazon agency. I learned this by a few agency friends in the UK. I said, look, what happens is they'll come to us and go, do you do Amazon? And we'll go, sure. And then they'll go and get someone to service that with inside the business because they don't necessarily want to branch off. I'm talking about on the European end.
Yeah.
So we're now getting a drain as well from the companies, the agencies, like the full service agencies as well, that have got work off good margins. The PPC talent will go there as well because they can offer better money as well, which, look, at the end of the day, we work in an industry. You got to be creative, you're entrepreneurs, and you have competitions. You got to expect that people want to get what they're worth and people get what they negotiate. I'm all for that, but like, I'm just articulating, it's like the lack of self-awareness. It's like, you're really good at PPC, but you obviously never run a business, because how many fucking accounts do you expect that you're going to be running for the money that you want and healthily service these accounts? Yeah. And I think, why, with all your great knowledge, how did you not do that calculation?
Yeah. And look, I mean, I've interviewed in the last year, I don't know, 200-300 people, insane amounts of people, like almost every week. And I can tell you that oftentimes the conversation with people at agencies is, I'm being worked too much. I'm managing 15 accounts. I'm managing 20 accounts. Not only, I interviewed a guy who was working at a big agency, managing 15 brands. And those 15 brands are each on 5 platforms, and he's managing all of them: Walmart, Target, Instacart, Amazon, right? Like, managing like DSP, PPC, he's managing it all. So it's like 50 different sort of like accounts. And he's like, I'm working 15-hour days, and the company we were bought out by a publicly traded company, and they said, until next year, we're not bringing out, we're not like adding additional people for this like group of clients, and this is it, right? So so I've had a lot of that, and like the last thing I'm going to do is spread people too thin across clients, or like the
you're going to lose clients. Bad news travels fast, 20 times faster as good news, right? So I think this is a slow march of death, because if you bring in someone, like you say, you bring in a rock star, a big gun, and it's about the money for them, and like you take a punt on them, then you've got to look, like you said, numbers don't add up on the back end. Then your customers don't get serviced, and your customers leave because they're unhappy. Yeah. And this person puts in 15 hours a day, does 9 months, and then burns out. Their effective work is going to be poor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anyone on my team putting in 15 hours a day. I think it's fine if people choose and want to work more than 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. But yeah, if you work somebody 70, 80 hours a week consistently, it's, and we've had some crunch times where we've needed additional help, and we've asked some people on the team, like, hey, are you willing to put some more hours? Optionally, we'll also pay you, for those additional, for that additional time. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, like, what your thoughts are on everything happening in the space in terms of exits, valuations. Like, again, I'm sure
it's a market there for sellers. I've said it over and over again. People who listen on the podcast will be sick of me talking about a bubble. This is a great opportunity now for sellers. The way I see it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you've got people like Frasio, Elevate Brands, and that know what they're doing. Really smart guys, everything else. And then on one side, you've got these really smart people that are raising money. Now, these people need deal flow. Right?
Yep.
So what happens is, if they're going to raise the next round, they've got to show that they've had the capability of buying these businesses.
Oh, yeah.
So when they're telling their investors, we're planning on buying X amount of companies a month, and they miss out on deals, the multiples go up, because that's what the buy and selling market is about. If you break it right down, people want a higher multiple. Right? They want to get as much up front and a higher multiple. So now the multiples are getting out of control. And we had John on from Frasio and Elevate Brands. They are saying, look, People are offering silly money in the space, right? So just take it, because we're not going to pay that silly money.
I've seen some 5x type of numbers, like, you know, some pretty high multiples. In your prediction, when do you think that bubble bursts? When do you think the first sort of like
18 months? I'll give it 18 months until there'd be a run through where rounds have raised, give them like a rolling 12 to 16 months, right? So they've raised the money. Then they're going to decide whether they can raise the money again. They would have bought businesses and wondered whether they can turn them around or not. Because you've got people, like I said, people that know exactly what they're doing, your Thrasios, your Elevate Brands, your Perches, and all these different people. Yeah. And then on the other side, you've got really smart people raising money who are going, we can work this Amazon thing out. And I think a few of those are going to get caught out with the multiples being too high. They're not going to get the returns that they want, so they won't raise the next round. So then the market starts to regulate itself again. But I think 16 to 18 months time.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometime in, you know, maybe late 2022 or 2023, there will be a big story about one of these companies failing. I think failing means they can't make their debt payments, right?
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of the companies, the interest rates are not low. They're 10% plus, and they'll end up selling the brands to a Thrasio or to somebody else that will kind of take over.
The roll up buys the roll up. Yeah.
That's going to happen. That it's already happened, right? One-on-one commerce, I believe they had like 8 brands or something and sold them to Goja, right? For example. So I agree with you. I think it's a great time to sell if it's the right time to sell for you, right? Like if you're at, you know, a 200,000 EBITDA and you're like, I think within the next 6 to 12 months I'm going to be at a 500,000 EBITDA. I think you should continue to push. I don't think you should rush, and I think there'll always be buyers for good businesses. But I do see, yes, valuations rising, and, you know, tremendous amount of activity. And I think there's now maybe like 80 of these types of companies, and more that we probably have not heard about. In fact, I know there's more that have not yet.
Well, look, the thing is, because of our black books, we get I get contacted at least once, twice a week, didn't you? Someone pops up. Can we have a chat?
We've had offers to be acquired by companies like this. We've you know, but the reality is most of them don't really want to run agencies. They really want our clients for deal flow. Yeah. To acquire them, and they want to hire like the team to operationally run. But they're not putting, I think, enough value on the agency, which is why we haven't sold yet to one of these companies, or maybe never will. I don't know, but
we have no plans. There's not a price that we want with all of the technology and everything that we built. Yeah. We're here for the long term. So what we see, what we can make, really aren't the. Multiples aren't really as exorbitant compared to other business types. Yeah, fair enough comment.
But the thing is that there's a lot of risk with an Amazon business.
Yeah,
and that is baked into the multiple. Now, the reason why Thrasio can trade at a 20 times multiple is they have de-risked themselves because they have 100 of these things. So if one brand goes down, the entire ship doesn't go down. But if your one brand goes down, you know, that's kind of the risk to the brand. So
let me ask you a question. And do you think that the aggregators will take over the course wars? Is that the new warring?
The course?
Yeah, you know, it is with the courses. It's like it's quite very, very competitive in the space. So are you seeing that heated up as well? Because obviously Thrasio being so big, other people coming in. Do you think that's going to get like really kind of hot under the collar?
When you say course wars, you mean like selling courses? Like
yeah, selling courses. You know, I won't go into graphic detail, but you know, it's like these like people are vying. You know, they're selling their courses, and over here, this one's the best. No, this one's the best. It's quite competitive. Like in that, if we look at our space, right, when we look at most like the PPC agencies, we all run around and hold hands and have daisies and drink beers. Like I find that the level of communication is like really good. You see that at PPC Congress. Whereas I think with the courses, it's a bit more hardcore in terms of competition.
Yeah. I mean, look, behind the scenes, there's one aggregator suing another aggregator right now.
Right.
Somebody was an employee and they're suing them for taking, I guess, inside data to another one. I've heard of one company telling another company like, hey, like we signed an LOI with this guy. Why are you still talking to him? He signed an LOI. So I definitely think there's kind of a little bit of that in the I think there's definitely a little bit of that in the aggregator world. However, I don't think it's a zero-sum game, right? I think there will be a top 10 or top 5, like very, very, very successful, like Thrasio leading the way, and Perch and others Elevate that will be very successful and will be at the top. So but then I've talked to one aggregator and asked them like, what do you think about this guy? I have a friend that's kind of like talking to them, and they're considering buying his brand. I'm like, oh, they're pretty good guys. I don't think I'll have any issues, right? So I kind of think it depends, but I don't think you'll see.
It depends how you look at the pie, right? Some people have got the abundance. So it's like, look, there's plenty to go around. Let's just get on with it.
I mean, look, Thrasio is a multi-billion-dollar company, and they have 100 brands. I mean, there's thousands of brands to go by. Your success is not going to be based on what another aggregator is doing. It's going to be based on your ability to actually operationally run the businesses, and it's not an easy feat. Think about you running your one brand. Now imagine building a team to run 100 brands, right? Like
there's a lot of problems that scaling. Like, my hats off what they have to do. I think they're at, like, we're talking about Thrasio now, I think we're about 600 700 staff, maybe more now. When I met John, they was at 50 or something. You blink and it's just, so it's incredible what they've achieved.
I think it's incredibly hard, and they've done an amazing job. I think you have to you really have to admire what they built from an idea of kind of like, let's roll up some businesses. So I have a lot of respect for the incredible amount of work. No growth will come without challenges, and the bigger the opportunity, the greater the challenges you're going to have along the way.
And you know what? We've done a show on Prime Day, and it's just like me and you having a private conversation the second half of the show.
And maybe it's more interesting than talking about Prime Day.
Maybe, yeah. So, best way people can reach you, your agency, etc., etc.
Sure. So the website is incrementumdigital.com. We're actually revamping it, hopefully in the next month or two, and we'll have a new site up. And Liran at Incrementum Digital. You can also DM me, on social media.
Yeah. Are you heavy activity on Clubhouse, or is it just weekly now?
No, not as active as when I started, but I am, doing maybe a once a week kind of room there. It's I like the platform a lot. I also listen into a lot of like just different interesting topics that around business and e-commerce and crypto and tech, and like it's a pretty interesting platform. I really like it, but I also try not to get too sucked into it. So I mean, I'm on there again. Like, I was on a room last night with Melissa Simonson, and she does a room and stuff. Kind of like when I have a little bit of downtime, like I'll turn it on, and I might if I'm just in somebody else's room, I might be like working and listening and
having it passive in the background.
Passively, we'll chime in or listen to it like I listen to a podcast. I do think it's a great platform. I've made connections from there, that have been good connections.
Cool. All right, guys, we're going to go now. Take care of yourself and your family. I'll be back next week. Sharon will be back in the chair tomorrow. I think Destiny Wishon will be here to be talking PPC. Liran, thanks for joining us again. We'll get you back on soon. I think it's been a couple of years since we've done your in-depth, so maybe we'll do an updated part 2 in the next few months. But guys, thanks for joining us. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you soon.